Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to day 21 of the Workplace Power Leverage session. This is a 31-day career accelerator for value-driven professionals. And the goal is pretty simple. I want to help you win at work and in life. And you know how I do that? I give you 9 power leverages over the 31-day journey. And the goal of what this 9 power leverage help you to do is they help you to accelerate your career, grow in the recognition you have in the workplace, grow your income so that you can live the life that you really want. Yeah. So today is day 21. We're actually on the second day talking about the 7th power leverage, which is your service power leverage. So yesterday we started it by giving you a better sense of understanding who it is that you serve. Today, we're going to take it a little bit deeper. We're going to go a notch higher in terms of how we're going to deliver service. Now, one of the biggest challenges, which most of us never embrace, is the fact that the way we serve or whatever products that we offer has multiple levels in which it can impact people. What I mean here is this. Most of the time, when we decide we want to offer a service or product or whatever it is that we're doing, we think about what we're doing only on one level. And the traditional way in which most of us think about it, we think about it in based on purely the function that we're delivering. So, but in reality, there are actually 4 levels in which you can go in terms of how you deliver service or product to the people that you serve. You have the base level, which is your functional. The second level is primarily your emotional level. And then the third level, life-changing, and then the fourth level, social impact. So, for example, under the functional level, you have your traditional things of you're doing this because it's going to save people time, it's going to give people some measure of quality, it's going to help people to organize, going to help people to connect, going to inform people. Those are purely functional basis that we're looking at things like reducing effort, the likes. Those are purely functional. Now, there is another layer of value that we can actually introduce to whatever it is that we're doing, and that is the emotional level. And what is the emotional level? In this particular case, you're going beyond just satisfying the functional characteristics that the person requires. What you are basically looking at, you are basically trying to address an emotional need that he or she has for asking you to do that particular task or asking for that product. Emotional needs like reducing anxiety, being able to make people feel a little bit better, give a sense of attractiveness, provide a measure of access to people, all those sorts of things. Those are things that come under the emotional level. And then when you move up a little bit higher, you have life-changing impact that you have. For example, you have things like providing motivation, giving people a sense of affiliation or belonging. And then the final stage, which is basically your social impact. Basically, what you're doing is you're giving people a sense of self-transcendence, that look, you're giving them a value that basically goes beyond what is the ordinary or what is the norm. So now you're probably wondering, all these things, how do you really deliver all these things? So we're going to look in terms of a product, and we're going to look in terms of a service. So let's look in terms of a product. I'm not sure if any one of you guys have heard of Tom's Shoes. Tom's Shoes was started by Blake. I can't remember the second name is Blake, but you can probably Google it. Tom's Shoes. Now, the philosophy beyond Tom's Shoes was pretty simple. He said that, look, for every shoe that you buy, he's also going to donate a shoe to a child in need in some parts of the world, some parts of the developing world. Now, what that offered was that, look, number one, he offered the functional appeal, number one. And that's the fact that, look, he gave you the opportunity of buying a shoe that really serves a function. The emotional aspect, which he gives for people, is the fact that, look, there's a sense of reward that he provides to people. The fact that, look, I'm buying this shoe and there's a reward that I'm getting for doing this shoe. The reward of knowing that that shoe that I'm buying, there's a portion of it that is actually contributing to somebody else somewhere. And then, of course, the social impact that it provides a measure of social impact in terms of the fact that people are actually getting value from that. But what you have to realize is that it's not every single time that you can actually have one service or one product that meets all the various levels. Sometimes all you have to do is when you do a functional thing, you also try to add a bit of an emotional value to it. And for the I can actually give a pretty simple example. Now, there's actually a story I heard from Darren Hardy. We was talking about some guy who that there was a company that made a tender, that made an offer to consultants to tender for a particular service. Now, he said that there was one person in which, how did he go about his tender offer? Because he said he actually knew two people who are involved in that process. He said there was one person who was involved in the process. The guy basically sat down, did a lot of research, put together his bid and everything and submitted. But he said he knew one other person. You know what that guy did? He basically called the guy who was in charge of the tender offer, and he asked him just 3 questions. He said, look, hey guy, I just have 3 questions to ask you before I submit my tender. He said, number 1, what is your biggest worry about this project? Number 2, what would make it a win 12 months from now? And number 3, what is the one thing that would exceed your expectation with regards to this particular project? And armed with the answers in terms of those 3 answers that he got from that person, he was able to do his tender offer. And, you know, even the way in which he submitted his tender, every other person, they basically submitted their own tender offer via email. You know what he did with his own? He printed it, had it delivered via courier to the person, physically hand delivered it to the person. Now, what he did was this: number 1, he addressed both a functional and emotional needs. The functional need, of course, was the fact that, look, they needed a tender that matched the basic requirements of the project which they wanted. But beyond that, by speaking to the person who was involved and being able to ask the person that, hey, what is your biggest worry? What was he doing? He was addressing the anxiety of the person. He was no longer just providing a functional tender. He was providing a tender that was addressing the sense of anxiety in terms of, this is what I'm really, really concerned about with regards to this project. It goes, and you know, those are things which people cannot necessarily communicate within a document. For example, if somebody sends you an email and says, I want so and so this, the fears which the fears and trepidation which the person has is not something that the person can communicate in an email or in a tender offer. Those are things you get within a conversation, and that's what this person was able to do by just picking up the phone, calling the person, asking these questions. He was able to find what were the pain points, the emotional handles which he could really bring to bear within the tender, and actually he actually got the tender simply because he was able to address that. And that's the way in which I want you to think in terms of how you offer service, how you offer your product. I mean, and it could go on different way. I remember on a personal, there was a time in which there was a job in which I was doing, in which one of the reports that I had to be delivering every Friday, I had to deliver the reports. Honestly, for me, the only reason I was in that meeting was simply because I was the one who, my team was the team that was providing the reports. The meeting was actually between 2 departments, the portfolio managers, those were the ones who are responsible for managing the portfolios. And then on the other side, you had the relationship managers. These are the ones who basically report to the client. It was an asset management firm at that particular point in time. And, you know, before I joined the firm, and even when I first joined the firm, most of the time the reports used to come late. A number of times the reports would only be ready by the time we're getting into the meeting, or we actually bring the reports into the meeting. Anyway, I was able to find ways of compressing time in terms of how we got that thing done, to the point whereby I actually got the reports out 2 hours before the meeting. And initially what I would do is, once the report is ready, I don't even print it, I just send it by email to everybody that looked at the report. But that was just meeting a functional need. And later on, from speaking with the portfolio managers and the relationship managers, I realized a bit more an emotional need here. Number 1, when we showed up to that meeting, portfolio managers did not want to look stupid by not having answers for the questions that relationship managers would ask them about the performance of their portfolio. Yeah, it was a portfolio performance report. Portfolio managers did not want to look stupid, showing up that, they didn't have the answers to the questions which the relationship manager was going to be asking. Number 2, relationship managers did not want to feel ill-equipped to be able to meet their clients later that week, to be able to tell them this is the performance of the portfolio. So you know how I address that? What I would do is, once I got the report ready, instead of sending it to all the parties who are going to be in the meeting, I first sent it to the portfolio manager. Now, the reason why I sent it to the portfolio manager was I wanted the portfolio manager to look at all the performances and see if there was anything which he had done which had not been reflected in the report, or there are times in which I send the report out and the report is just a bad performance. There is nothing that the portfolio manager could do about it. But based on that, the portfolio manager is able to look at the portfolios that had a bad performance, have reasons, and have corrective measures which is going to implement in the next week. And so by the time he showed up in the meeting, the portfolio manager, who didn't want to show up as not having the right answers, he didn't want to be embarrassed in that meeting, showed up to the meeting equipped with answers to give the relationship manager. And at the same time, the relationship manager, who didn't want to be seen as incompetent by the client, got the right answers to be able to give his or her client. And so on that level, I had gone beyond just providing a functional service, providing just a functional value. I was already providing an emotional value. I had reduced the anxiety of the portfolio manager. The portfolio manager was no longer going into that meeting like, oh my God, I'm going into this meeting. These relationship managers are going to skin me because I don't know what it is I'm going to say about my portfolio. And of course, the relationship manager is confident that, look, okay, whatever questions I ask with regards to the performance of this portfolio, I am going to get answers. I'm going to get answers that I'm going to be able to give my clients. That is just looking at it simply on something that this is actually something which I used to deliver on an ongoing basis consistently, week in, week out. But just simply by being able to understand people, ask questions. And that's one of the things you have to realize. For you to actually bring additional value to people, you need to be able to ask questions. You need to be able to ask people questions, because it is when you ask questions from people that you would actually understand the ways in which you can bring additional value to whatever it is that you are doing. I mean, it could be anything from the traditional reports that you give to service that you provide to external parties. The only way you can actually find out how you can provide emotional, life-changing, or social impact value to these sort of things, it is only by asking questions. By asking questions, sometimes you may also need to find out the direction in which the market is tilting, because sometimes the way you can understand how people actually want to address certain things depends on how they actually are sensing the market. So for example, let's say there's a particular service you offer and there is a way that is there's a general apprehension within the market. So for example, I'm sure most of you are traditionally familiar with most trainings or products that you buy. Whereby they will tell you that, look, they're giving you a 30-day refund guarantee, no questions asked. Now, the reason why that had to be introduced was it had to be introduced because people did not want to feel stupid. So, for example, you invest in a training or you buy a particular product, and at the point of which you are buying it, you're basically taking a risk. You don't know whether you're going to get full value for it. And you don't want at the end of it to feel like a fool. Like at the end of it, you basically just wasted your money. And so most of the service providers basically started introducing, whether it's 14 days, whether it's 30 days, they basically started introducing that, oh, look, if after 14 days, you're not satisfied with whether the service I'm providing or whether it's the product or whether it's the cost that you buy, just send me an email. I'm going to give you a full money refund, no questions asked. That is a way of basically addressing a deep. I mean, that comes not necessarily even from asking questions from people. That basically comes from understanding the type of market that you're in, whereby people have that sense of apprehension that, look, oh, am I making the right decision? Is this the right thing that I should be investing in? Oh, how do I know? How can I pull out if at the end I find out that this is not exactly what I want? So you need to be able to ask questions to the people that you serve. At the same time, you also need to be environmentally aware in terms of what it is that is happening in your market, because your ability to understand this might help you to be able to provide additional value, additional sense of impact. So for example, a number of businesses have come to realize that, look, beyond just the traditional value of giving staff a pay, an opportunity to rise, most staff want to know that, look, they are actually they're actually working in a company that provides more than just financial and pecuniary rewards. And so for them, they are beginning to think about the social impact of what a company or an organization is doing. And which is why you find out that a lot of organizations are now being involved in social campaigns, social justice, for example, serving a particular needs, offering scholarships, providing social intervention, things like that. This is basically a case of the most employers recognizing that the market is changing. People are no longer just thinking just in terms of, oh, I'm going to get a pay, and that's the only thing I want to be concerned of. People are beginning to think along the lines of, look, I also want to know that, look, my company is doing something beyond just we're getting paid, they're giving us pay. They want to believe that they are doing something beyond that. This is the kind of thinking that you need to put in towards whatever it is you do at the workplace, whether it's a service, whether it's a product. You need to put that level of thinking and rigor. You need to be able to ask your audience questions, because it is only from asking questions that you'll be able to find additional pain points that you can actually meet. And what you have to realize is that the more sense of value you give to people, the more committed they would be to you. Not only committed to you, but also be willing to introduce you to other people. And so it follows not only just to external clients or external customers, it also works within the workplace. So for example, let's imagine you are delivering so much value to the people that you're working with. What's going to happen is that information about you is going to spread within the organization that, oh, this guy, You can always be sure he's going to deliver. And the way they would explain it, they may probably not even be able to explain it in terms of the levels of impact that you're giving to them. It's just the fact that, look, you are somebody that gives them value. And I will tell you, just being able to provide functional and emotional value is significant enough for you to bring significant recognition within your workspace. Just being able to provide functional and emotional value, it has that level of significant impact. I mean, know that, for example, if you are that kind of person whereby people know that, look, once they tell you something, look, they can go to bed about it because they know that, look, you are not going to stop until you get to the bottom or to the final conclusion of it. That provides some sort of emotional value, because why? People realize that, look, you are someone who is able to provide, is able to reduce their level of anxiety, whether it's with regards to a transaction, whether it's with regards to a product, whether it's with regards to a process. So with that, we come to the end of today's conversation. And what I'm going to want to do is, let me share my screen so that we can go through what today's assignment is on the workbook. Okay. So let's see. Let me pull this up. Okay, good. So today's assignment in your workbook is pretty simple. What you need to do is you need to identify at least 3 results that you deliver and see how you can provide functional, emotional, life-changing, or social impact. Like I've said, the most important, you just being able to provide even emotional value, say in terms of being able to reduce anxiety, to being able to, just being able to do that alone has significant value. You may not be able to go to things like life-changing. So, for example, providing motivation for people, you might not be able to offer things like that, or social impact. You might not be able to do that. But just being able to provide functional and emotional value has significant improves the perception that you're going to have even within the workplace. So that's your assignment. Just identify 3 core results that you do and see whether you can provide, how you can provide functional and emotional value. If you can go beyond that of providing life-changing and social impact, the better for you. But on the minimum, try as much as possible to just get that first 2 levels, functional and emotional. And with that, we come to the end of today's conversation. Thank you very much for coming today. I really appreciate your time that you're investing by staying with me. As always, like I've always said, I am available to support you over this 31-day experience. There's a link if you want to have a one-on-one session with me. There's a link which shows my availability over this 31 days. You can check it and see if the availability works with your own availability. And let's meet together. Let's have a one-on-one conversation. It could be something along the lines of what we're doing within this 31-day experience, or something directly aligned to your career. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what value I can bring into your thinking and be able to clarify whatever it is that you do and take you to the next level of where you really want. Once again, thank you very much for joining me. I want to wish you guys a wonderful day. I look forward to you joining me once again tomorrow. Have a great day.